got Camtasia. You know what that is? It's kind of a video editing thing. I've been using that for years. So, um,
Nice.
Mark, how you doing, buddy?
Doing
Really,
well, yeah?
it's exciting time.
It is.
It's just an exciting time. It's like 2008 all over again. No,
I
but
wish I
not
was in it.
exactly.
I was in it in 2008, but I was on the wrong side of it. I had a big loan modification operation back in the
Right,
day,
right.
and we did really well. We were helping, but the people we couldn't help, I wish I was in that game to help those people. But then it probably could have been a conflict of interest too. You know what I mean?
Sure. Well, when you got a federal license,
Yep.
you got restrictions on what you can do, in that type of thing. But let's talk a little bit about what kind of problems are coming down the pipe, and then why can creative financing kind of maybe serve that group of people that's getting disadvantaged. This moratorium that's being lifted on 1 January, the landlords that are really kind of angry at many things, the government, their tenants not paying, somebody interfering with their livelihood. You want to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, I believe it or not, last week I actually had somebody evicted through
Really?
yeah, it actually worked in Florida. The gentleman actually could actually paid. He was taking advantage of the situation, and that's kind of why they allowed that one to go through.
Okay.
But it was a very unique situation because we actually had to do court on Zoom. It was a property up near Ocala, and the guy didn't lose his job. He was perfectly fine, and he just absolutely took advantage of it and literally didn't make a payment for almost 6 months. So that
Right.
actually worked for me on my part of it. But yeah, I hear it from many investors, many, not even investors, just like a lot of people trying to do the retirement. I have a friends, people, a lot of times families start out, they start in a condo, they get married, start in a condo, and they usually want to upgrade. They want to start having a family, they upgrade. So they want to get that condo so they can use that money for the retirement. And a lot of times you can't rely on Social Security. So they want to get a condo, townhome, turn that into a long-term rental, and
Right.
then they upgrade and get their home. And a lot of those people, even middle class families, are getting hurt because they had that one rental that they're trying to get, that's their retirement fund. And now they're hurting because people are not making payments on them. And,
Exactly.
and I totally understand where, the government needs, I understand these people are hurting during the times, but I just think it's a wrong system where, these people should be getting paid extra to be able to make sure they can pay the landlords, because all they're doing is they're passing it from one American not paying and putting the burden on somebody else.
Yeah, the whole thing here is if you're a mom and pop landlord, maybe you inherited from your folks or whatever, but you plan your year by your rent coming in. And then all of a sudden, it's like a restaurant being closed down and they can't do their business. They can't do it. It's closed down,
Yeah,
They cannot do their business. And how can they pay their bills? How can they keep their employees? How can they pay their lease? How can they do all these things? So there's two problems that I foresee. I see the landlords wanting to get out of it because they don't want this to ever happen again. Whether it will or not is another story, but they didn't get into this game to have the government get involved with, their livelihood, right?
right.
So they want to get out. But if they want to get out, they're not going to discount their price by 30 points. They're not going to do that. But what they might do is seller financing.
Very
So the
good.
play here is talk to these disgruntled landlords, even in December, and say, look, the moratorium is getting lifted next month. Would you consider a creative offer to fix the situation? And just see if they walk through the door.
Mhm.
But don't wait until the first of the year to do it. Do it now. You know,
Absolutely.
get a list of these mom and pop, maybe small apartments or something like that, where they're at they're really pulling the hair out. It's like toward the tail end of this problem. All right, so that's number one, seller financing with some small multis, and maybe getting even performance leases with them, meaning like if you get money, you pay them, but if you don't get money, you don't pay them, right?
That's a nice, that's an interesting strategy.
Well, that's the only way I do it.
Right.
I'm not going to be paying them if I'm not getting paid. So performance leases are a real idea for dealing with these small multis. Now, on the other side of the fence, the tenant buyers and the owner financing buyers, that pool, a lot of them are going to be small business owners. A lot of those people, maybe Chapter 7, 13 people, and we need long-term contracts. We need 5-year plus contracts to get them to rebuild. You know, so I look at that. I mean, I just start a meetup group, you know, and local, and I say, look, if you need owner financing for a house, you need to call us. We're going to sit down with you, find out what your dream house is, and then when it comes in, we'll get you in there.
Yep.
But, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually, just an hour ago, I was on a call with a newbie investor. Well, he's more of a wholesaler out of Las Vegas, and you know, he's got a guy, same thing. He just needs help on structuring an owner financing deal.
Right.
So I was in the process of helping him on that one a little earlier. Different options on that one. Yep. Like my go-to is the sub-2 and lease options. You know, that's where I feel comfortable. Those are my tools, my tool belt. And that's kind of the reason why we're having a call today, so I can have an idea. That's kind of weird how that popped up.
I know. Connection. I get on my phone. But, you know, it's nice that we're kind of marketing together with both our groups. You know, I've got like 5,000 people on mine, and you got about 3,000 people on yours. And this is like joint education work where we're teaching everybody, what can you do in owner financing?
Yeah.
How can you buy on owner financing, you know? How can you sell on owner financing? What's the regulations?
That's the key, regulations.
Right.
It's a lot of these guys out there trying to do the owner financing and have no clue about the regulations, and that's, you know, I see it all the time. I'm like, hey, you need to start learning. You need to learn about the Dodd-Frank, the SAFE Act. Yeah. There's a lot of regulations that they need to understand.
Well, here's the key. If you're listening to this, the number one key is that if you're selling the property on a lease option with rent credits, or you're applying a lease option down payment toward the purchase price, either one of those two things that you used to do before 2014. Before 2014.
Yep.
Because January 1, 2014 is when Dodd-Frank came into play. That's the big date, right?
Yep.
And it was crazy those first couple of years, 14, 15, and 16. It was nuts because every lease option and land contract investor, what do we do? Yeah. How do we do this? And RMLOs that weren't really even around, or if they were hiding. We couldn't find them.
Well, even the attorneys didn't even know the proper regulations.
Right. Right. Well, there's so many pages in the Dodd-Frank. It's hard to dig through that thing to figure out to figure it out. But right now, we've come such a long way with RMLOs getting firmly established, learning about what investors want to do. And if we can get you know, you and I, we've been working with getting a good RMLO in Florida and then a few others in some other states. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow us to be able to sell on seller financing, whether it's land contract or a wrap or a lease option with rent credits. You can do rent credits if you have an RMLO. You can do the down payment applied toward the purchase price as a financing arrangement with an RMLO. You know, anything can happen with an RMLO. You can do whatever you want, but it must be underwritten. And the fee for that, I don't know what it's going to be. It's going to be $500 or whatever.
Yeah, it varies on the area.
Yeah, ballpark. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but
anywhere
I
between,
don't want to quote anybody.
What I'm seeing is anywhere between like 500 to about like 700 in that area.
Okay. But we'll absorb that, you know, into our sales price or our down payment, you know, whatever. Let's talk about land contracts, because that was kind of like the genesis of why we're talking here.
All right, perfect. Because I need to. That's the tool that I need to add to my tool belt.
Okay.
I don't understand the land contracts. I think I get an idea of it, but you're the master at it, so I definitely appreciate your time on that one.
The first one I did, I think, was in '86, and I was like fresh out of the Marine Corps, in a good land contract state in Arizona. And, it's just a fantastic contract because it's simple.
Now, what is it? Also, their land contracts are also known as what in other states?
Well, in other states, they're called, okay, going on the East Coast, we got bond for deed in Louisiana. It's the same thing. Contract for deed in the Southeast. You go to Georgia, contract for deed is huge. You go up, installment land contract in Colorado, ILC, but they're all the same thing. It's like you put some money down, you make payments for usually about 5 years. It doesn't have to be. It can be 10, but 5 years. And then there's some kind of a refinancing action from the land contract buyer that promotes him to get an FHA loan and refinance that. And you're coming from the mortgage loan origination business, that to refinance somebody with 60 payments on time and a good DTI and a good job history, it's a no-brainer.
Right.
And that you're refinancing an owner and not a renter.
It's much easier.
Well, it's much easier.
Yeah.
I mean, a renter is much harder than refinancing a land contract into a permanent finance.
It used to be easy before the Dodd-Frank days. They used to. They would take the last 24 months, cancel checks, and actually apply it. But now the rules and regulations change. So, and that's one of the reasons why I want to know more about the land contracts.
Right. Well, we tell the buyer before they buy, before they put their money down, before they fill out the 1003 form for underwriting purposes, look, we want you to get permanent financing. We want you to work on your credit and your DTI and really be diligent. Because the worst thing in the world is for us to get the property back in 60 months and all this money's been wasted and this plan blows up in your face. And you know that up front when you get into it, Mr. Buyer. So work with us so that we can help you win and you can win and being a homeowner in 60 months. So
that's the key.
That's the whole thing. And it's so much stronger of a sale than with the tenant buyer, because the tenant buyer, what do they get? They get a chance to buy it.
Right.
And if they are lazy and they don't do their thing, they don't get the house and they lose their option consideration and they lose all that time that they could have been, almost building equity, right?
Right.
And a contract for deed is like you're building equity. You're not doing that in lease option. So I think it's an easier, sexier sale. The only thing that is the downside of it for the investor is that they understand that state's laws as far as repossession if they default.
Yep. Takes the foreclosure process like Florida.
Right. And there's ways to be able to facilitate a transfer of ownership. And it's like cash for keys when I get a defaulted contract for deed guy.
When you just put that into your contract, your agreement, like a sub 2, like a warranty deed, the performance warranty deed. If you default, they take the property back much sooner than foreclosure.
Exactly. You avoid the foreclosure completely. And, they know what's going to happen if they default. They know that I usually give them 2 months, whatever they've paid for walk-in money. So now they can go someplace else and get a place right away and not worry about cash flow to be able to get into the next place. So that's a win-win for everybody. The worst thing.
I like that. Because people do fall into hard times.
You can't be stubborn with these things. You can't be cheap with these things. You need to think like, if I don't do it this way, this guy could bring me to court. This thing could be tied up for 6 months. The judge could say, hey, why don't you pay back, make him whole the way he used to be when you first met each other, and you give him, you refund him, Mr. Investor, Mr. Rich Investor, his down payment, and all the monthly payments he's made. You give him that money, he'll give you all what market rent would have been on that property, and whatever that difference is. You're in the hole like 20 grand, you do that.
Easy.
You
Yeah.
don't want that to happen. So you get some coaching on contracts for deed and land contracts wherever you start to do them, if you sell on that matter. Now, when you buy on a land contract,
Let's talk about that.
yeah, because I think it's an underused tool. All right, now it's in between a lease option and a sub-2. Now, if you're doing it long distance virtually in this virus environment, I think it's a tool that you got to use. It should be one of your 3 offers. Give them a sub-2 land trust offer, give them a land contract offer, and give them a lease option offer.
Yeah, see, right now I'm doing the lease option and I'm doing the sub-2 trust option. So that's why I want to add the land contracts definitely into that.
Yep.
So that I like that.
Yep. And don't you think, Mark, that it will be less risk of the deal falling apart if it's virtual and it's long distance, and you give them those 3 choices and they go to an attorney, they'll probably put a big fat X through the sub-2.
Right.
The attorney will.
Yep.
Why? Because you're asking them to give up the deed.
Correct.
And no attorney's going to encourage his thing. Now land contracts, no story. He's heard of that. He knows what it is. Agreement for deed. He knows what that kind of thing is. And lease options, some of the attorneys, yeah, it's
Yep.
not a hot thing for them to do for their clients.
Yep.
It's just not. So if you buy on terms, you use those 3 tools. If it's local, I think you got a better chance of doing the sub-2. And they better be in trouble, though, for the sub-2.
Yep.
They better be behind.
Yeah.
They better have
did
real
one in
money
Orlando.
pressure,
Yep.
Now, let me spend about 5 minutes on this this program that I got going for veterans. My goal is to get 500 veterans calling FSBOs. That's it. 500 veterans calling FSBOs. And what I'm looking for is above the median. Now, folks that are listening to this, if you don't know what median means, it's more expensive house in
How
the
far
area.
above do you go? How far above do you go?
I'll go to the top third. Why? Because I want to fill it fast. I want a quality house. It's like I want to be in the Mercedes business and not the Chevrolet business.
Makes sense. Keep going. Yep.
All right. So above the median, I want the best schools. And I mean the best public schools I can find. Why? Because ideal person I want to put in this house is a doctor with a lot of debt, a dentist with a lot of debt, an MBA with a lot of debt, some of a white collar person with a lot of debt, and they can't get a traditional FHA mortgage. And their DTI is too high. And we're going to give them 60 months to pay it down. Doesn't that make sense? That's a good cash flow buyer, right? You don't want an interruption of the payment. So get some young professional right out of school. Now, I like medical a lot. What's medical? Like near a hospital. Who works in the hospital? Who's going to be out of work in a hospital? Very few people. They're always going to get work. You get a radiation technical person that's running the MRI. You get an RN or somebody like that that's just out of school. They want to be owners. They don't want to be in a shitty little apartment, excuse my French. They want to be in a nice house, right? And they want to plan for home ownership. And this contract for deed really helps them do that. And you can find, with the RMLO, you can finance a down payment over 24 months. So they can make the payment, they can put some money down, and they can make an additional payment on top of that. So
Right.
This is a way for people to get into home ownership over a 60-month period, and we know they're going to park themselves there for a long time. Another, like let's say somebody's working for a Fortune 50 company in that town, they're not going to lose their job. They're going to stay there, and they're going to raise their kids in those good schools in that safe street, right? So our program works with the veterans, They get on Zillow and they act like a buyer, which we are.
Mm-hmm.
Not an investor, a buyer. We're a buyer. We want to know a little bit about the neighborhood. Now, why would I even talk about the neighborhood as a buyer on a FSBO? Why would that build rapport with the seller? Any idea, Mark?
Because people want to know what the neighborhood, like, especially if they have children, what kind of neighborhood it is,
There
and
you go.
think about yourself when you're growing up as a child, and all your neighbors, you became best friends with them.
There you go.
Especially during these times, or like I'm in Florida, a hurricane comes through. We're all neighbors, are all becoming one community.
Right. But more important than anything, if you have young children, you want neighbors that will have the attitude that the village raises the children. The street raises the children. It's a safe place to go. If they got in trouble, could they go knock on that door and could they be let in and be protected? It's that kind of neighborhood watch kind of attitude. There are some neighborhoods that don't have that. Some neighborhoods, they could care less about protecting a fellow neighbor, right? Mm-hmm. So how I introduce the neighborhood is say, look, you did such a good job on Zillow with these pictures. Did you professionally take these pictures? And you make them feel good about the effort they put in for the ad on the FSBO. Because everybody needs to be stroked a little bit in this life to feel that they're doing a good job and get complimented, right? It's all Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Big piece of that book is how can we make people feel appreciated or you're thankful for what they're doing. It's leadership, all that stuff. But on the phone, if you can praise them as far as the listing, and you can praise them as far as the pictures, and then bridge out to talking about the neighborhood, and that bridging question I use is like, you did such a good job with all of this. Can I just talk to you about a few things that are important to me? And one of them is the neighborhood. And can you tell me a little bit, if we had really young children, like 3, 4, 5, or 7, or 10, or even teenagers that were 15, what's that street like? Is it a comfortable place for children? And I tried to paint a picture of certain ages. And what I want is for them to say, you wouldn't believe this neighborhood. Like next door is Mr. Smith. He's 80 years old, and he treats all the little kids like their own grandchildren, that kind of thing. And across the street, there's a family of 4 they're all under 10 years of age. Young children would be great for that family. And you know what I mean? It's like you're getting them to talk about their street and selling you on the street. And you'll appreciate this. What I do while I'm talking, it only takes 4 minutes to do that. 4 minutes to talk about the neighborhood. But what I ask in between, I do, Columbo, if I ever talk to you about using Columbo on the phone, Columbo's a show on television in the 70s with Peter Falk, and he was like this fumbling guy that was non-threatening, and he'd say things like, he'd scratch his head and say, oh, what was that address? That kind of thing, that kind of, fumbling. And I do that on the phone. I say, oh, by the way, what was your payoff on your mortgage? How much do you owe? Or what's that payment that you pay the bank? And how long you've been paying on that mortgage? But I'll throw it in between that neighborhood talk.
Right.
Because if I have this clipboard and I'm saying, what's your existing financing? Is that PITI? They're going to go like this, and they're going to...
I like to use the one like, you probably don't have a mortgage on that property, and then they'll correct you.
There you go.
I like that. The dangerous questions. One. I kind of take it a different direction, but
right.
Yes, you can't come straight out and they'll be like,
no.
Right, they'll get defensive. Why do you want my information?
Exactly. And that takes some training if you're not good at it.
Yeah.
All the VAs for Ron LeGrand, they're artful as far as getting that existing financing so that when they pass the lead, the closer can do something with it. Mm-hmm. We know how much the balance is. We know what PITI is. We know if it's an ARM or it's fixed. We know that information so that we can design an offer. Can't design an offer without that. All right, so the the two other pieces after the neighborhood is I talk about the schools and how good the schools are. And I say, look, if the schools aren't good, I don't want the house. You know, you come out like that as a buyer to the
Yep.
FSBO, and they go, oh no, the school's real good. You know, they kind of defend their schools and all the rest of this other stuff. And I said, you know what? I'm talking to you because I did the research. I went on greatschools.org. I got Bishop School at a 9. I got Frederick School at a 10. You know, and you just read off these schools to them, and they're impressed by your ability to do the research. You know?
Yeah, and you said that there's a good website that you recommended. I think you sent it over to me a week or two ago.
Right,
For the
right.
school system.
There's two. There's greatschools.org, and it's not .com, it's .org.
Oh.
And the other one is neighborhoodscout.com.
Yeah, I've used that one.
SCOUT. That's good for crime and some other.
Yeah, I've used that one before. I think they're tied in. Yeah, that's a really good one.
Yeah, so they're both good. And when you have them up and you're on the phone and you're dialing for dollars here, you know, and you're talking to the FSBO, you just keep those steps in front of you. And then once we get through the schools, the next step that I like to do is get their time frame. Yeah. Because if I don't know their time frame, I can't give them my creative what if over the phone. I can't do it. So let's say we have two examples. One is 4 months time frame. Another one is 4 weeks time frame. Now, which one do we want?
I like the further one out for me.
Not
but
me.
It all depends, you know.
Not me. I want the 4-week one because they got pressure. They got time pressure.
Okay.
Okay. And they'll
it depends. Yeah, you're right.
They'll do the creative offer much faster and without thinking about it than if they have 4 months to think about it. If they got 4 months to think about it, they're going to get their lawyer. They're going to talk to 5 different people. They're going to spend a month on the internet. You know, they're not going to do it. So if they are 4 months out, I will say, look, let's tell you the truth. Our plan for your house is a good plan B. It gives you 100 cents on the dollar for your house, but it's over time. And we'll explain that later. But here's the thing. You go get your plan A, and that's all cash today. You go get that. I'm going to put you in my callback file, and I'm going to call you in about 2 months to see where you're at. And then I just get rid of them.
Well,
because
what I've done is I go ahead and I'll lock the contract up, and then
I can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
Losing bandwidth or something. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, but that's my procedure with a FSBO. If their time frame is short, I want them. If they're not, if it's a 4-month time frame, I want to call them back. Okay.
Did I lose connection?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, good. All right, so if the time frame's short, I'll use this kind of a what-if statement. Now, the what-if statement is like, see if they walk through the door. If they walk through the door, then we got something. If they don't walk through the door, we probably don't have anything. And it's like this. So, Susie, you told me about, you know, your neighborhood. It sounds great, you know, and the schools and your time frame when you want to go. But let me ask you this one question. And if you like the answer, if you like, you know, what we do, then we'll go further. If you don't, then you just hang up the phone and says, no, I need cash, and there's no way around. I would consider that plan B. So here it is. What if we could get you 60 payments on your mortgage over the next 5 years, 60 of those payments, and then whatever your balance was would be paid off in full. And if there's any equity due you, you would get that check. Would that be worth talking about further with your husband, or maybe not, as a plan B for your house?
Right.
Now, that's a really carefully worded what-if statement to see if they walk through the door, but it really works if you do it that way. You know, if you do it some other way, it may not work as well, but I've been using that kind of a what-if statement with sellers for a long time, and they either walk through the door or they don't. Mm-hmm. And if they walk through the door, then the opener, as I call them, the screener or the VA will say, okay, they'll consider it, and they pass the lead. That's all they do. See if they're open to terms. So what you could do is hire VAs to do that piece of it, and then when you get the lead, you see if you can't get an agreement over the net and have them sign DocuSign and just sell their house.
I just did a deal. I have 2 VAs, and they go through Zillow, and I got a great deal on that particular one. We actually end up getting, as when it was all said and done, about $105,000 equity and about $800 a month cash flow off of that one, and that came from Zillow.
There you go.
You know, so they're definitely, and the VAs work perfect. And then what they do is they go through, and then they'll set up the call and put it right on my Google schedule, and I'll come right to my phone 10 minutes before, boom, and then I just know, and I click on my CRM, and it has all the data right in front of me, and they run the comps and everything for me.
I love it. I love it. So, you know, Zillow is a wonderful no-cost marketing, zero cost. And if it costs you $4 to $6 an hour, right?
So worth it.
But you have peace in your life. Your wife likes you. Likes your lifestyle. You know, you can go down to P-Town and have some fun. You know, it's just, you know, it's good, right?
Absolutely, it is.
You know, so you're working smart. You're not working hard, and it's great. So, all I can say is I want to make sure that, you know, we're kind of partnering on this video, and you're not, you know, I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes, and I'm bringing value to your group, right?
Appreciate it.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, definitely appreciate it. Yeah, we definitely always can help each other out. That's the key about this industry, and certain people, you always want to you know who to network with, and you can help each other out. And you know, whatever I teach somebody, then I always tell them, you know, go to somebody else and learn from them as well. You know, you want to add several tools to your tool belt. You know.
Well, you know, like my sign says, you know, we want to learn lease options, sub-2, wholesaling. We want to learn the whole private lending, joint venturing. You know, we want to do that. And I'm big on sharing what we've got. I've got 800 videos on my YouTube channel, and some of them are locked down, but some of them aren't, you know, and it's just for the universe to learn. You know, if more people would share ideas and help the universe learn what you can and can't do and what procedures work when you open sales, right? And how sellers think and the psychology and all that stuff. If more REI trainers would do that, it just would be a better industry as far as the education piece. And that's what I'm all about.
Yep.
You know, if you go to my site, REI Skills, there's no opt-in. There's things that are protected, but you look at that front page, there's so much stuff there that you can just learn for free.
It's amazing. When we were younger, we had to do the old manuals and books and order things through online. Nowadays, you have, you know, the resources right at your fingertips to learn all this stuff. It's amazing.
You know, let me ask you a couple of questions about who influenced you when you were younger about this business, like on the creative side. Who influenced you as far as teachers that you either read books or went to seminars for?
I would say probably that really got me going is probably Wendy Patton. Back in, you know, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, she was the queen of lease options.
Sure.
Then I started following Ron LeGrand. You know, he was good.
Love
and,
Ron.
You know, Bill William Bronchek.
Yep.
So those guys are probably the ones that really, you know, and then I ended up teaming up with a guy that was just a local investor. I was his bird dog way back when.
Right.
You know, that's kind of how I learned it. I remember, you know, my first real estate deal, I had no clue what I was doing.
Most of us.
It was an interesting one. I was back up in my hometown in Vermont. I threw one of those bandit signs up, you know, we buy homes. My first one, I think I was 19 there around the time.
Really?
Yeah, and this guy called me up. Hey, I got this mobile home for sale. I'm like, I don't want a mobile home. Goes, oh, it's worth 21,000.
Yeah.
He goes, it's worth 21,000. And I said, and he wants 18. I go, I'm not interested. He calls me back a week later. Hey, give me 15,000. It's worth 21. I'm like, I'm not interested in a mobile home. Calls me back about another week or two later. He goes, give me 12,000. I'm like, no. I'm like, do you own the land? He goes, no. I said, I'm not interested. Then he calls me back about a month later. I found out he doesn't live in it. It's in a mobile home park, and he had lot rent coming due. Called me up, goes, give me 6,000. It's worth 21. Now I'm thinking about it. I was like, all right, now it's a little. I said, you know what? I'm not interested like I've been. I said, I'll give you 3,000. Goes, oh, come on, give me 4,000. I'm going, I'm not interested. So I said, he goes, all right, I'll take the 3,000. Goes free and clear. I said, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to send somebody else to inspect the property. Hung up the phone, placed an ad in a classified paper, mobile home for sale, owner financing, $25,000, $3,000 down. So the first lady, she went and looked at it, her and her child, great area. They went and they took it. I took $3,000, paid for it, created a note at 7% over 7 years. So it was $260 a month. That was my car payment at the age of 19. So that was my really first to create a financing deal, and I had no clue what I was doing.
You did great.
Yeah. And
I mean, it was that persistence, though, from the seller and that your reluctance from the buyers.
I really didn't want it. I didn't want a mobile home, but I'm like, no, it made sense at that point.
Uh-huh.
You know?
Let me share with you my first one. I was working a job. I didn't know anything about real estate, but one of my friends was renovating houses and selling them. And he says, look, you don't need any money. We got a hard money lender. If we can get an offer that is cheap enough, then we'll get no money down and we'll get a hard money loan. So I did do that. It was in South Phoenix. It was in, excuse my French, a shitty part of town. And it needed just a bath, and it needed lawn, and it needed, just prettied up. I think I put about 10 grand of my of repairs into it. It was 10% interest and 12 points. That was expensive. That's real hard money.
Yeah, it is. What year was this?
This was 86.
Wow.
Yeah, this was a while ago. So the bottom line here is I bought it, fixed it, or no, prettied it up. I just put a lipstick on a pig, really, and then listed it with an agent, and I made, I think, $19,000 with that deal after I paid off the hard money. And that was the most amount of money I've ever had my entire life in one shot. And it was just all hard money, no money down. But I got it really cheap. I had a no wanter. I hit the phone real hard for that. I must have made 200 phone calls to get that deal. But you got to find the people that don't want the property. Like you did with the mobile home.
And one of the things I want to say is, like, a lot of like newbies that come into this business, these gurus will go out there and tell you, hey, you can make money right off the bat, like 30 to 40 days. But realistically, I think, and what's your opinion? I think it takes roughly about 6 months to really get your first deal under the belt.
Well, I've developed a system where somebody can make some money in 60 days.
That's
but
great.
It's not the traditional sale. What it is, it's like a lease option assignment or a land contract assignment deal. And it's where we have no equity, pretty house, good school district, and they just need to get out.
So your system is more of a bird dog system, correct?
Well, they can do both pieces. The point is, you'll make more money by getting the VA or somebody else to hit the phone to open up the sale, and then you close it, than you trying to do that. And when somebody wants to scale, they call me up and say, Brian, I know you're really good at scaling businesses. Like, I want to double my net. I want to double my net. I said, well, are you a cash or terms business? And they go, what? And I go, cash or terms. It means you got a wholesaling piece, and then you got a terms piece, and you're doing both at the same time. And it's like commercial and residential. The conversation is totally different than what you're telling the seller. On the wholesaling side, it's like that thing you did with the mobile home. You kept being that reluctant buyer and waiting for him to hit rock bottom on the price. The term side, I love my credo on this. It's like we help sellers maximize their equity dollars through creative financing.
Yep.
Now, is that
Yeah,
like Mars and Venus? We're giving them 100 cents on the dollar for their
oh,
property.
absolutely. And then in Florida, I do really well with people, the older generations,
Right.
they want to downsize.
Right.
And I'll actually put together an amortization schedule and I'll send it to them like, hey, you do owner financing at 5.5% interest rate. Look how much money you're making
Exactly.
at 10 years. I'll show them. And it's like, so they're diversifying and you're creating passive income. And a lot of times they like that because, they're just relying on Social Security. This is another way, at the age 65, think about it. You're just relying on Social Security. Now you have another form of income coming in for the next 15 years.
We are related as far as what you just said, because that's an installment sale on a free and clear house. And what I do is I collect articles from AARP and that talk about retirement. And they talk about, one of the scariest things for people over 65 is medical bills that are out of pocket. And the research that AARP did is the average amount of out-of-pocket costs for like prescriptions and things that the insurance doesn't cover, but it has to come out of your pocket for that lifetime from 65 to death. That's $250,000 over that period of time.
Crazy.
And it's mostly toward the end of your life. It's like those last couple of years, that nursing home care and all that hospice and everything else. So the point I'm trying to make here is if we can help the free and clear seller sell on installment sale and be the bank like you're talking about, right?
Yep.
What I tell them is look, read these articles about annuities, read these articles about Social Security. Those two things are worse than what I'm offering you. Social Security is a big question mark. Annuities have problems with the surrender charges. So take a look at if we can maximize, you can be the bank on this property, have some money. I love this saying, have some money in Wall Street. That's your mutual funds, but have some money in Main Street. This is Main Street money. And you know this house. And if you had to get this house back, you wouldn't be crying to the bank. I mean, you'd be happy to get the house back. It's not a bad thing to get the house back if you had to get it back. And there's one other thing that I do to protect the installment sale person that is trusting me to pay them. I say, look, if I don't pay you, I'm going to keep an open escrow and leave a quick claim deed so that you don't have to go through a foreclosure to get the house back. That's 60-day window. If you don't get a check on the 61st day, you get a deed. It's that simple. There's no foreclosure. There's no nothing. And then
I do the same thing.
Sell it for cash or do whatever you want to do. But I guarantee you the payment's not going to be late. I guarantee you, because I'll lose so much if the payment's late. So this is your insurance policy that it gets done. So look, we're so much alike. It's silly as far as this conversation. And I would love to, help your group in any way, and I'd like you to help my group in any way, and be symbiotic about it. Okay?
Absolutely.
We're not in competition, buddy. It's all about helping the universe, and it gets paid back in spades. It's unbelievable.
Absolutely. So,
any other questions about land contracts? Or selling online?
Yeah, walk through that. Like when you how is it structured? It stays at the title company, from what I understand, or the attorney, depending on your state. You have to perform the duties.
Well, we cloud the title with a memorandum of contract, but not the actual contract.
Okay.
So that the seller can't remortgage or sell the property. So, that's protecting our interest, much like an option would. So that's one piece of it. You have to disclose, you have to have a system of repossessing that is good for both sides. And that's one of the keys when I sell on land contract. I think, okay, if something unfortunate happened, they got in a car wreck, they couldn't work, they couldn't make a payment, how can I make it easy on them to leave? Like a cash for keys kind of thing. And I tell them that up front. life happens.
Mhm.
Life
Yep.
happens. And, we want you to be able to have choices. Now, the law doesn't require me to do this. This is a gift
It's
I'm
just,
giving you.
yeah, it's just good business.
Yeah. And it's good PR,
Yep.
right?
100%. Yeah,
Because
you could definitely be an investor in the game and do it good business and be able to sleep at night. You know what I mean? And
I
really
do.
help people on both ends.
Well, this is kind of newsworthy when you think about it.
Mhm.
And if you were ever talking to a reporter or somebody that's saying, well, how does this land contract thing work with your company? And it says, look, it's a lot like a car loan where you put some money down, you make these payments, and at the end, you got to go get permanent financing. It's like that. And it's been around for 150 years. It's just real estate agents don't like them. Why? They don't make a good commission on them. So they're not going to offer them to the
Same with these
public.
options. Yeah, same thing.
Same thing.
So let's talk about the closing process. Does it
Sure.
actually? It doesn't change hands. Who's responsible for the taxes, insurance?
Whoever's living in it pays the taxes and insurance, but you're also on the insurance policy that they get. So the seller has the ultimate responsibility for property and casualty insurance. So if we're buying it on land contract, we are a signer on that policy. We don't get a new policy. We keep that policy, and we're also a signer on that policy.
So is that policy set up as, I'm assuming, like a rental policy with the lender?
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I'm assuming that's how it's set up.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's not that hard. And there's insurance property and casualty salespeople that do that all the time.
Right.
They just add an additional insured on there.
So when you do the signing of the documents, when you purchase it on the land contract, so are you doing a HUD, or you do the HUD at the end when you exercise? Like what type of closing documents?
We create a HUD that's kept in escrow. We don't sign it or anything like that, but this is what the numbers are going to be when we finalize everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's kind of like it's just kept in escrow.
So you need to find an attorney, a closing agent that understands, contracts for deeds to be able to handle the proper closing. Because there's a lot of title companies and law firms don't know how to handle these type of creative closings.
Well, if you find any conveyancing attorney,
mm-hmm.
I can talk to them.
Yep.
And I can tell them exactly what's necessary, and it's in there. They can have a little profit center if they do, 100 of these things.
Yep.
Also, having a collection company collect these payments and pay the mortgage is really helpful.
Who do you recommend for that out there? What are the companies you recommend?
NoCollection.com is a good one. And I think that's my go-to right now, but there's a couple of other ones. There's one in Louisiana, Escrow Serve, I think it is, in Louisiana. But these NoCollection companies will give you a tax report at the end of the year, and it helps on your taxes, so you know what has happened on that property. They also do lease option properties, so it's good for accounting, and it's like $15 a month. It's cheap.
Yeah, it is really cheap, and it makes it a lot easier than especially on your own books.
Right.
Yep.
So like subject to the land contract, if you have a subject to existing financing, there's a due on sale clause.
On a land contract?
That's what I was going to say. If they sell a house on land contract and there's existing financing, there is, that's another conversation about the due on sale clause in land trust.
Right.
But we use a land trust with it, just like a sub 2. So it's similar to a sub 2 chain of paperwork.
Wait, so a contract for deed, you do a land trust, you're telling me?
Yes.
Got it. Makes sense. So you follow pretty much the same guidelines as you would on a sub 2.
Yeah. And people out there, if you don't know what a sub 2 is, we can have a class on that. And sub 2 and the land trust. The land trust is a revocable trust that we use with property, and it really does a good job with privacy. So nobody knows what you own, and it's legal to do.
Yeah.
So as
highly
long
recommended.
As long as that payment is made on on the property, on the contract with that mortgage, as long as that payment's made and the insurance is kept up to date and it never lapses, the banks generally don't care if you put it into a revocable trust. They don't care. And the name of the trust is always the street address of the property, and you could tack on family trust at the end. So if it's 1234 Frost Street Family Trust, that's the address of the property.
Yep.
So that's how, anyway, without digressing here. Folks, if you want to make money fast, use this system of going through FSBOs, getting pretty houses with no equity, getting them on contract, and selling them like on a mirror land contract, or you could buy it on land contract and lease option exit. Either one of those two, I think, is the fastest way to make money that I know of. It's faster than wholesaling. Wholesaling takes so long to get geared up, and there's so much competition. Don't you think?
Oh my God, is there? I never, I don't do a lot of wholesaling deals. You know, I'll do like, I'll do an owner financing, and sometimes I'll wholesale that deal out. Sometimes that's another type of strategy. But I don't go in there and I don't like going in there and just beating somebody up on the price. You know, I don't want to be one of those investors. I want to be the one that actually helps everybody out, and give them what they deserve.
Well, look, you can give them 100 cents on the dollar, but you need to be able to make a profit over time with that. And your taxation too is better. You know, when you sell on lease option, your tax is like in half. But when you are a dealer in property on a taxation basis and you're flipping, and you're not doing anything else, you're getting hit like 38 to 42% in tax, and it's just awful.
Yeah, I was talking to this wholesaler about a month ago. He's got 4 guys. He's doing really well. They're doing, when it's all said and done, he's clearing about 150, 175 a month. And he says 40% of it is just gone out the door in taxes.
Wow.
Think about that. That's just crazy. And he's a wholesaler. He does extremely well.
Yeah, but
what
is he keeping is the question. It's got nothing to do with what he's grossing.
Yes.
You know, I grossed like 1.5 million one year, and I think I kept 100,000.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I'm serious. You know, my CPA says you're really good at making it. You're not good at keeping it. You know, and I was 28 years old. You know, and it's just, you can get in a trap without a tax plan with your business.
He's about that age too. He's in his, I think, late 20s, early 30s. Young kid, go-getter, is doing really, really well.
You get a taste of wholesaling. It's almost a drug where you just want to blow the numbers out, but you don't pay attention to the tax. And it's a mistake. And that's why you really should have a cash or terms business, not just a cash business.
Correct.
Look, let's put our thinking caps on. Maybe a private lender one we could do, and a joint venture one we could do, a self-directed IRA one we could do. Those are the top huge. 3 in my head that we could do. And we'll have like PDF stuff that they can download and all sorts of things. I've got some videos with this. We've been on for about an hour now, and these videos are like, it kind of goes through the Dodd-Frank Act, goes through seller financing in general. So we'll put it all together as an educational piece for free for your group. No obligation. You're not paying anything for it, but they got to be part of your group or my group to get it.
Perfect.
How's that sound?
Works. That sounds great. It definitely, so you get out there to these people, and you know, and then like I started doing any type of wholesalers or in my area, if they want to kind of be part and wants a little bit of, I do some JV deals, you know, with a lot of people. I definitely do that on my end, and because I want people to be able to succeed and help them out. You know, it's scary, especially the times are going in right now. You know, and people can do it. You know, they can, whatever they want to put into it, they can get out of it. It's just, you know, it's hard work, but it definitely pays off. It's definitely worth the payoff.
Yeah. Well, you know, if you give first to get, right, that's the best way. And if you are dealing with a senior person, you rookies out there, try to ask what can I give you first so that I can get something from you? It really bugs me with people that want all this education for free and all my time for free, but they're not offering anything in return.
Oh, and there is a lot of time. There's one right now I'm really trying to help and do some mentoring on. Great kid, but God, I'm probably in, I don't know, 50, 60 hours, if not more, of just trying to help out and doing a little mentoring and, sending them different websites and YouTubes. And, I have no problem doing it. Eventually it will definitely pay off in the long run for everybody, you know. But you're right. It is a lot of time and energy that goes into helping, but at the part you give and you get.
Well, the easiest way to impart knowledge is to have two senior people talking about something and drilling it down and getting, actionable pieces, right? And they can take that away and implement it today, right?
Yes.
So I'm going to review a couple of things. What I do on FSBOs, I get on, I look above the median, maybe even a little bit more than average. I go up into the best school districts. I go to greatschools.org. I go to neighborhoodscout.com. Those are the two ones I take a look at. I will get on the phone. I will act a little goofy, not like a realtor. You know how realtors sound, the first thing out of their mouths, right? Hi, I'm with ABC, Keller Williams.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, don't do that.
Yep. And they're always going to be upset, like, oh, you know the realtor? Because they get bombarded with realtors.
Oh, yeah. We won't go into the first 5 days of that listing, how many calls they get from an agent. There's little robots into Zillow that people, as soon as a new FSBO goes up, they go after it.
And that's one of the things that tips on my end. We always wait after it's been sitting a little bit.
Yeah.
Because they're a little bit more motivated.
Yeah, they are. But in the beginning of that call, you're acting a little befuddled and scratching your head and go, is this 123 Frost Street? Is this house still for sale? And what that does is it totally disarms them that you're not an agent and you're just a buyer trying to look at a house, and that starts the conversation well. And then compliment them on their listing, the pictures and how they wrote it, and say, look, what I really need to know is about the neighborhood, and ask them questions about their street, their schools, how safe their town is, how proud their town is, are there parades in July 4th, anything you can think of. Another good idea, and this is a very good idea to get started fast if you're doing virtual work out of state. Let's say you wanted to do Columbus, Ohio, and you wanted to know about Columbus, and you go Columbus, Ohio wiki, and you get all this stuff about Columbus. Now that's real macro stuff. There's no micro in that at all, and you don't get anything to sink your teeth into with that information. So what I do is I have my students call the Chamber of Commerce in that city, and they call them. You can leave a message too, and you can say, I want a relocation packet because I'm thinking of moving to Columbus. And they'll mail it to you for free. And you'll get so much detail about that city and its schools. You also get a lot of crap from advertisers like insurance agents and some other stuff, but you'll get inside information. Why is the Chamber of Commerce there? There's one reason. It's to help small business owners succeed in that business. They trade leads and they try to give back to that town. So that's my little tidbit as far as if you're going to do virtual work, call the Chamber of Commerce in that town.
I want to piggyback off of that too, because I do some virtualing as well. What I tend to do, and it works really well, is when I'm on the phone with a seller, I'm on Google Maps and I'm pulling it up and looking at restaurants and different things local to that property and have a conversation. Oh, how's this restaurant nearby? And just start, open it up and start building a rapport with those sellers. And they'll tell you different restaurants and learn a lot from the sellers, and they'll tell you a lot about the neighborhood and oh, good restaurants. So then it helps you when you want to sell the property to your buyer, so you become very knowledgeable on the neighborhood.
Oh yeah, I mean, whenever you're selling to a buyer, the more you can promote this street is a good idea, this town is a good idea, these are the reasons, that kind of thing. I mean, what else can I
one thing I always tell people, especially if you're new in the business, always do Zillow just to practice in your speech, in your script, to get your marbles worked out, because like you said, those leads are free. It's just your time and energy and then putting your VAs. Then take it to a next level. I like, prop stream. I don't know if you
Okay.
ever use prop stream.
Yeah.
And then start pulling data, and you can start calling those leads too, and you can
Mhm.
filter out. What are your thoughts about that, Brian?
That's mine too.
Yep.
To get a fast start, I think prop stream is a little overwhelming for some people. I think if they got their first deal off of just Zillow, nothing
Yes.
else, and they got FSBOs, nothing else,
Hmm.
and my attitude is, what I want you to focus on is, like, write down this one saying: the law of large numbers cures all problems. And what that means is you call 20 FSBOs at least 3 times a week. That's 60 calls. So if you get a busy signal, that's not a call. You got to talk to somebody or leave a message. That's a call. So
Hmm.
if you could do 20 of those, how long would it take you to call 20 FSBOs, Mark?
Oh, it depends if I have a conversation, but 20, probably a half hour going through.
Yeah.
But if you start having conversations, the conversation could lead 15 to
Yeah,
30 minutes. So
right.
it depends.
But let's say within an hour to hour and a half, you can get
Yeah,
through 20 dials, right?
yeah, easy.
And you do that 3 times a week. So that's about 4.5 hours a week, right? And you got
Hmm.
60 of these. You got 60 leads. And then you do the same thing that week. And you do the next thing, same thing that week. So over the month, you got 240 different people you're talking to.
Yeah.
What is the probability of you getting a deal?
Oh, it's extremely high.
Right.
Yep.
I would
And then,
almost
yep,
gamble $1,000 that you would get a
yep,
deal, even if you were awful.
yep.
Even,
And then to take it a step further, then you get a CRM like Podio that's like $25 a month,
right.
and then you have somebody set it up. Like what I do is my VA every day, she's adding 25 new FSBO leads from Zillow. So then it shows up in their CRM. It
Yeah.
sends them a text message, and it also pulls up on my VA's calls for that day. So I probably have, I was looking at it, I think I have in the last year over 8,000 people, I think,
Wow.
from Zillow in my CRM. That's constant. And then what happens if they're not interested right now, then you switch it. So I do sequence. I do short-term sequence,
Yeah.
and then if they're not interested in owner financing, I'll switch to long-term. And then what will happen is my CRM will follow back up in about 60 days to see if they're still interested in what they've done with the property. So that's one of my lead sources, and it works great.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. And I was just told by a good friend of mine, his name is Sam, and he talked to me about this new kind of an unknown service.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows REI Black Book. Everybody knows PropStream. Everybody, these are main names.
Mm-hmm.
But there's this one I've never heard of before, and it's called REI Reply.
Never
And I
heard
don't
of
know if
that
you
one.
ever heard of it, but
No.
it's a follow-up system, Mark, much like a Podio.
Yeah.
And it's very well thought out. And I just started using that, and I'm using that for all my students. And
Yep.
so take a look at that. And it's fairly cheap. It's $50
Yep.
a month. But anyway, we can't keep changing our systems because something new comes along or whatever. But I'm putting a lot of my faith into REI Reply.
Yeah,
So,
I think a good system really helps take you to that next level.
oh yeah. Look,
100%.
you get 4 VAs from the Philippines. You get them all in your system.
Oh,
You just tripled your income,
absolutely.
and it costs you about $300 a month.
Mm-hmm. Great.
So we're on the same page. I just I like helping people, and if you're a veteran, we'll train you for free. There's no charge whatsoever to do the training on FSBO, and you'll make money. But you have to do 20 calls 3 times a week. If you can't do that, please don't ask me about the program. So any parting words you can think of?
No, it was good. Love to maybe have to pick your brain on actually doing a land contract deal.
Okay.
Put one together. I'm gonna start adding that to my tool belt and start talking to people, and we'll definitely do one of those.
Well, I'll get you some paperwork that you can
Yep.
use, and you
Perfect.
use your own land trust stuff there.
Yep.
And just think of it like a sub-2. You're just using a land contract.
Yeah. It's just I don't think it's rocket science once you understand the different. If you understand sub-2, especially sub-2, there's just so many different moving parts to that.
Right.
Compared to some of the other
I think
ones.
it's
But
simpler. It's kind of simple.
I think it's fun. I just I love creative financing. It's just, it's just like, how can you help somebody? How can you put the deal together?
Yeah.
It's just, it's fun,
Me too. I mean, I read in the 80s, Nothing Down by Robert Allen, and, it just opened up my eyes. That was the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book of the
Oh,
time,
was it?
about thinking outside the box. And the other author that I really highly recommend, that was really big in the 60s and 70s, and he was William Bronchick's teacher. His
Oh,
name is
really?
Albert Lowry.
Never heard of
And,
him.
and I mean, he's got some old books.
Well, look at you. You
I
still
mean,
have them, huh?
I got them on my bookshelf. I don't know if you can see it, but
Yeah.
anyway, the bottom line here is these ideas aren't new. They're not new.
Right. Just people are uninformed about them. Even your typical realtor, some of these realtors don't even know. They're just used to your vanilla transaction.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. In the 80s, we had to do it
Yeah.
because the interest rates were well over 10%, and we had to do wraparound mortgages. We had to do these things in order to sell any houses. So if you talk to a realtor in their 60s and 70s, they know all this stuff.
Yeah.
But these young bucks that are 20, 30, 40 years old, even 50, they're not used to having to do this. It's all cash. There's another book called Shift by David Keller Williams guy, Gary Keller.
Okay.
And it was written in 2008, 2009. And in chapter 10 is all creative financing. And I'll get you a copy of that chapter. It's really well written from the agent's perspective. How can we help the seller, help the buyer buy it?
Yeah, I would love that. Who's that one? I love this.
Gary Keller, Shift, chapter 10. I'll just send you, I have it on a PDF.
See, I'll be great. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Look, it's been a pleasure. I knew you at Bigger Pockets. You know how long I've been around the block. I think
when we met, we started chatting about 6, 7 years ago in Bigger Pockets.
Yeah, it was a while ago. It was a while ago. But my blog, my business blog on Bigger Pockets was number 3.
Wow.
So when he opened the door on Bigger Pockets, I started a little business blog called Make Money with Creative Financing.
They've done well. They've done really well.
Oh, look, there's so many people that have done a good job marketing.
Yeah.
I've just devoted my life to coaching one-on-one and getting people to make money right away. But I don't start people in wholesaling. I start them in like flipping lease option contracts. It's the easiest freaking thing you can do.
It is. That's what I always tell people. Start there first and learn it, and then and go from there.
Yeah. Well, listen, God bless you. I've enjoyed the talk. I will get you this in a day or so. And if you ever need anything, you let me know.
Likewise. All right, Brian.
See ya.
You take care. Bye-bye.
Yeah.